But yeah, do you
Okay.
want to introduce yourself? I mean, I know who you are because I follow league and I've been to two grand finals and like a proper
Yeah.
fan. Some people might not know you from both hats, so I guess the league and then what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, go away with it.
Yes. Thanks for having me, bro. Anyway, I'm Lewis Brown. Used to be fortunate enough to play professional footy for the Warriors. Got to pull on the Kiwis jumper. Originally from Christchurch, and now retired and living in Sydney. And currently finding my way through. Some say the fashion game, but I'd probably call it more the streetwear game. With my brand called Earl's Collection. Yeah, so just over here, bro, and trying to do my thing. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Well, what burned on my head anyway? Like, what inspired your change? I guess your career change, because going from league to a business owner is quite different. I mean, it's like the opposites almost. But yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, bro, it was like it was definitely an event. I it kind of takes me back a bit, takes it back to my childhood to get the kind of the story and why I made the decision to retire and why I'd made the decision to do what I did and currently I am doing, and that's Earls. And I was raised with a single mum. You know, worked two jobs, did everything for me and my sister. I've got an older sister who's 5 years older than me, very close. So raised by your mum, single mum. My dad was kind of in and out of my life. He was there, but I didn't really know. I didn't think I knew him. Like I knew who he was, but like we hadn't. When I think back now, I didn't. I didn't really know who. Well, I didn't know who he was, but I didn't know nothing about him to kind of answer the questions I need today. And so on, like we used to go to the like footy games or the movies and stuff like that. And the last time I would have spoke to my dad was when I was 21. I came back to New Zealand for my 21st first birthday, and he came along, and it was the last time I spoke to him. And there'd been times like I wanted to pick up the phone and call him, but I'd been giving him every chance. Like there'd be days where I'd be out by the gate, and he wouldn't rock up. And for me that really gave me doubt about trust, where I could trust my own dad and stuff like that. So as the years went on, I didn't bother picking up the phone. And, in my teenage years when I started playing NRL, I think I had in my mind that I would cross paths with him one day again and have those adult conversations with him that I needed to have, those mature conversations where I kind of needed the answers about how he grew up. And so I'm really basically raised with one family, so that's my mum's side, and
yeah,
my grandfather, my pop, he's basically my dad, and our family's Māori, so and my dad's side is just straight Pākehā Kiwi, so
yeah.
very different sides. And
Complete
so
opposite
I think,
almost, eh?
yeah, exactly. So I thought for myself, like we would definitely cross paths, and we'd be able to sit down and let bygones be bygones, and whatever, he kind of, he probably felt bad for being a slack dad, and I probably held on a grudge. And for me, I look back on it now and I regret it. I feel guilty, but unfortunately, it was 2017. I was playing for the Kiwis actually,
Yeah.
um, over it, and you might have to Google it, bro. But we played the Aussies in the final of the Four Nations in Liverpool,
Okay.
over in England, and I hopped off the field. We just got pumped by a good 30 points.
So emotions would have been high.
Yeah, bro, we've been on tour for 8 weeks. It was a tough time. I was looking forward to going home. Actually, I was going to do Europe after it, so I was looking forward to just getting away. I've never done Europe in my life, and I was looking forward to getting away with it. Anyway, hop off the field. My sister calls me. I think, and I was just like, oh, she just wants to talk about the game. And I was like, oh, okay, like no, I'll just leave it. She rang me back straight away again, and I pick up the phone. I was like, what? Like what? Hey, how are you? Like I didn't say what, but I was like, hey,
Small
how are
chat.
you?
Yeah, yeah, small talk.
Yeah, like what's up? Like, and she was like, oh, it's dad. And I was like, oh shit, like, what is it? And she said, unfortunately, he's taken his own life. And yeah, for me, it was pretty tough, bro. Like, it was like, sheesh, like everyone's like, we always lose someone. We're always going to lose our dad, etc. And
Yeah.
I think for me though, like I'd never ever been or crossed paths with suicide. I'd always sort of been the outsider, um, the person or the friend that thought they could do enough, but they didn't know the person well enough to go and help them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for me, I was like this relationship that, you know, I had put on stall. He had put on stall for like 20 years. Like I was just so confused, bro. Like, so anyway, I had to hop on the plane and fly back to the team. And, you know, credit to the boy. Oh, like, I'm not going to use that cliche line. I was going to say credit to the boys, but you know, the best thing about the Kiwi culture, bro, those boys in that team and the coach, David Kidwell and Nadine Conlon, were like very, very great to me. You know, they kind of, like, I needed someone there at that point in time, and you know, my team would just got beaten up badly by Australia. We put the result behind us, and they put the result behind it themselves, and you know, picked me up for those days about traveling home from London and back to Christchurch, trying to wrap my head around this whole thing, you know.
yeah,
So anyway, I go back to Christchurch, and I go to the funeral, and obviously I flew, and they delayed the funeral for me, and it kind of yeah, it was kind of surreal. And I got home, went to the funeral, um, and for me, bro, it was super weird because I knew these people there, but they were my family. So my real last name's actually not Brown; it's actually Blakely. So my dad's last name's Blakely, but my mum's last name's Brown. But
okay,
I just
right.
haven't got around to changing it yet. But people know me as Lewis Brown.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
here's
you
all
would
these
have had all
people.
these sorry to interrupt. You would have had all these like unknown or questions that you'd have going on that you want to know, but obviously,
Oh, bro, I just don't even know how I got through the day, to be honest with you. And you know, for me, I've got my auntie there. I've got who I've met like twice in
yeah,
like close to like nearly 30 years, and like I've got a grandma there who, you know, I haven't spoken to in nearly 20 years. You know, and then I've got a stepbrother there, a half brother, who looks like me, and my dad had later on in another marriage. So, and we don't really have a relationship, and I hadn't seen him since I was like 10, and was like 5. So,
yeah,
and like there's this all of this, it's like I've been put in this different world, and
yeah.
I'll
It'd be
be
like you're in
honest with you,
a reality TV show looking in sort of thing. Eh? You just
oh bro,
like
I was
think
like,
what would
I
be going
was
on.
upset. Yeah, bro, I was like upset. I was angry, I was sorry, you know, every emotion kind of went through me.
Yeah,
You know, that day, you know, it's a hard day to kind of, you know, think that was your last encounter with your dad kind
mm,
of thing. You know, unfortunately for me, it was, um, you know, him not being alive. But that day was just weird, bro. It was like hard. It was very, very hard to wrap your head around a death, let alone suicide. And
yeah,
what I found out at the funeral is, not only had my dad taken his life, my grandfather had taken his life too. And
yeah,
for me, the reason I hadn't met my grandfather because he'd taken his own life before I was born, you see, or I was 1 or 2. So I think I got to meet him, but I was 1 or 2, and mum and dad had just broken up, you know what I mean? So they never got back together. And, you know, so for me, I was like, whoa, sheesh, like, man, like that's like a bit
how
crazy.
did that make you feel knowing? I don't actually know how to word it, but just knowing all the past things as well. Did it just put you?
I'll be honest with you, bro. Like it made me scared. Like
Yeah,
it probably gave me goosebumps a little
yeah.
bit.
It's
You
giving me
know, like
just hearing it now, so I can't imagine.
yeah. Thank you, bro. And it's, you know, it's something you're not prepared for. It's something you're not trained to. There's no manual to it. You know, I'm encountering kind of feelings that I've never had before, and I'm like 33 years of age. You know what I mean at this point. So you know, I'm getting these emotions, grief, like because, you know, touch wood, like, you know, that was the closest someone had died to me, if you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
blood.
yeah.
You know, so for me, it was really hitting home, and I felt guilty. I felt everything, and anyway, that kind of happened, bro. And anyway, I went back to footy. Uh, Kind of probably dealt with my dad's suicide with, and used footy as an outlet.
Yeah.
Um, and it helped for helped for some time. But I guess like, I they say like with suicide, you never get over it, but you just learn to deal with it. And
Yeah.
I think during that time, I was just trying to do that, just deal with it, and probably push it like I thought I was going to have that talk with my dad. I pushed it to the back of the brain where like, I'll get over it. I'll get over it. You know what I
Like
mean?
the
And
typical Kiwi harden up, like man up sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I've got a job to do here at footy. The team aren't going to think that I'm at 100%, mentally on the field.
Yeah.
If I talk about this, like, but they didn't understand is that was my outlet. That was the 80 minutes that I could solely take my mind off my dad's stuff, the
Yeah.
questions, the conversations I thought we were going to have, and yeah, I guess as it prolonged, bro, and as my career went on, flip like I had to like it got to the point when your dream becomes a job, you got to walk away. And ever since I was a 4-year-old boy, I fucking just wanted to play NRL, bro. So yeah, it's pretty tough. Sorry, bro. I didn't think it was going to be this hard, but to
No,
chat
no.
about it. But
Take time.
yeah, it's been fun. Anyway, getting to Earls. So I decided to retire, and I always been into fashion, bro. My dad had always been this kind of cat that was a little bit before his time with like fashion. So for
Yeah.
me, bro, like I was like flip, like embarrassed of this dude because he had this out there fashion. But like my mates' dads were like dressed in like rugby tracksuits and polos, and
Typical
that's what,
Kiwi bloke. Yeah.
exactly, bro. And I copped the same treatment that I used to give my dad through footy because I used to dress differently because I was into like, streetwear, and that was my passion. That was Lewi Brown during the week, the 80 minutes that he wasn't playing footy. Do you know what I mean? And that's all people knew me as. So it
You're
was
like
part
the
of my
Russell
aesthetic.
Westbrook of league.
Yeah, bro. Well, trying to like, it was my aesthetic. You know what I mean? It was in me. You know what I mean? And it definitely was my passion. And plus, I was sick of. I got to the point where I was sick of spending, so much money on other brands. Why couldn't I create my own? And I guess the hardest thing for a brand is probably coming up with a name and an organic story. And for me, the name comes actually from my dad, myself, my dad, and my grandfather's middle names. So all our middle names are Earl. And for me, I used to hate the name as a little kid, bro. Not because I, thought it was my granddad's and dad's middle name. I just hated it because in my generation, it was like a weird name.
Yeah.
Earl. You know what I mean? So that name come naturally, and for me, that name won't be passed on to my child because every time I walk into the doctors and like the doctor, the first time I went to the doctor or the counselor and spoke to them, they said to me, oh, like it could be generic and like genetic, sorry, and like for me, bro, I'm just like, whoa, like is it in me, like is it in me to like
Do something.
once again another question, bro. I was like, well, I didn't even think of that, like, you know what I mean, like stuff I'm dealing with, I'm like, what the hell, like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes
So
the doctors put like false things in your head and it just dwells. Like I've had stuff recently with my heart. It's totally different. But anyway, they say something and then of course you're just going to build on it and Google and it doesn't help, does
yeah,
it?
and I think for us, like, we're all individuals and not one size fits all. And that's what I kind of learned is like, you can create your own path in life, and that's what I've done in life. And that was the kid from Christchurch that had been told he'd never ever make it in the NRL, and school teachers, high school teachers, telling me I'd never ever make it. Into Earls, I've heard the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You've got no idea about clothing, etc.
Yeah.
And the same goes into my life, and the same goes back to that what the doctor said about it being genetic. Like, it doesn't have to be genetic. It's the way that you want to deal with it. And I think with mental health these days, like it's the governments aren't still doing enough. Like,
No, no.
it's something that's actually it's actually affecting, and they need to pay more attention to. That yeah, they can throw money at it, but pay more attention to it too. Something shouldn't be just covered with money.
Yeah,
Something should
money's
be
nothing without action, is it?
exactly, you know what I mean? And you can throw everything at money, but if you don't want to take it on solely and fix it yourself, well, it's not gonna, nothing's gonna change. And I know COVID's been bad, and I know the government's been talking about this and that, and like this like the vaccine stuff, and
Mm.
but what I was worried about the most time was, like, first, we're all foreign to this. Like, second, how am I going to deal with this mentally, because we've never ever been locked up for 2 years.
Yeah,
And my mindset now is like, well, how is everybody's mental health? We should be paying more attention to that, not a worrying about isolation and putting people back in hotels as soon as they arrive and stuff like that. It's just like, there's other things killing us that are, like, are riding us hard. Like,
yeah.
people, you know what I mean? Like,
Dark
and
horse you is a lot more what's it called? It's like louder now than ever, especially with all the stuff going on. And I mean, fortunate enough for me, and I'd say you, like, we're in a comfortable situation, but people less fortunate than us, I mean, it would cause even more issues, right? Like, yeah,
exactly, bro. And for me, the my current my girlfriend, and who I've been through for the last 2 years, who actually met during COVID. How we met actually was, my friend, turns out she works with. He took me for a ride to their works at the restaurant, and she was in there, and then she come to coffee with us, and he was talking to her, and I could hear they were talking, but she wasn't saying it very loud. And it turned out that her sister had unfortunately just committed suicide. So for me, I kind of thought, like, I feel like this girl's been brought into my life, to have more than a coffee.
yeah.
So I just reached out to her and just said, listen, I'm not in a creepy way. 'Cause I know DM,
And
people
no
think
sliding
DM.
into the DMs
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it wasn't a slide, and it was just a gentle step
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
And just said, listen, like, I find it best sometimes talking to strangers. Like, I know it's just happened to you, but like, I'm always here. Like, I'm a complete stranger, but I know what you're going through. And 2 days later, we spoke every day for 8 weeks while she was up in Byron Bay, and I went up there, and we've been together since.
That's great.
And
It's cool how something can come out of just a simple
oh,
conversation like that, and it's
bro,
well
it's
needed
just
in
like
times like that. Like
it,
I've had a couple losses, sounds similar, not the same, but similar to you. Like my granddad and grandma and my cousin who was my best mate, but we all had the same middle name, so that's so buzzy as well. Um,
oh, what?
yeah,
Well, that's
me, my
so cool.
cousin who passed away have the same middle name, Philip, and then my granddad's name's Philip. So
Yeah.
fuzzy, yeah.
Oh, bro,
Anyway,
that
that's
is
like holy shit.
no, that's crazy, bro. And that's like for me, like, of course, I go through mental health, like, these days where, like, I'm still trying to learn about my dad's thing. I'm still trying to find my way through it, but also trying to help my girlfriend through hers, because hers is a lot more raw than mine.
Yeah.
And I've probably over the years have come up with mechanisms trying to help myself through it.
I
And
was just going to
it,
ask that question. What some like strategies you
yeah,
use now?
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, do you want me to answer that question, bro?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So just some strategies you've put in place, like knowing what you know now. Because like the way I look at mental health is like you're doing the best and I'm doing the best and everyone in this whole bloody world's doing the best they can with what they currently know. Like you can only do what you can only do is like the way I look at it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like, for me, for a long time, I put it at the back of my head, like, every person does, and you don't want to be a burden on someone else. You think someone's got it worse than you, so you don't want to speak about what you think's like minute, but it's not. It's something big. Um, so early on, I really felt like I did that. And then I went and started speaking to someone, and it opened up a whole can of worms, like, where, like, they would dive down that hole with me, that mental health how I was feeling, feel my heart rate, my temperature, my eating, because I'd retired and I'd stopped eating a lot, and I'd lost 20 kilos
Yeah.
since I'd finished footy, so. I started going to speak to this lady over in the Northern Beaches called Ella, and her basic, she said she could tell me the whole world, like all these mechanisms to like fix it, and all that kind of stuff. But she just so one thing I just took away with it was she just told me to take it day by day,
Yeah.
and for me, that's the best way to do it. Like, just deal with it the best way, because what I learned from suicide is you can't control what you can't control.
Yeah.
You can only control what you can control. And unfortunately, in this life, and in that people are gonna, end their lives because of mental health. And that's why I think we need to up it in New Zealand, not throw cash at it, because we can throw so much money at it. But even in Australia, we need to have more driving force behind it. And it's only going to get harder. The government's got to realize, like, living in lockdown, that's not normal life. The world's changed. Like, people are adapting. People have lost their jobs. They've lost loved ones. They haven't seen loved ones for nearly 3 years. Do you know what I mean? It's all foreign to us, and it's just that motto, that just take it day by day, has really, really helped me through COVID. Because when you start finding yourself looking too far ahead, you start getting anxious about Friday, and it's only Monday. You know what I mean? And before you know it, your whole days you're anxious, and you know what I mean. What Thursday looks like, there's still 4 days away in between that, and just controlling and being in the now, and can just slow yourself down. That has been my mantra, and it's helped me through, I guess, also my girlfriend. I think having someone else that's been through what I've been through, like, is very, really, really, like, it is really helpful.
Yeah.
But not saying that, someone that hasn't been what you've been through isn't helpful. I'm just lucky that she's kind of going through the same thing at the same time. So for me and her, like, like, the emotions in the house can be a yo-yo, and it's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where some households, it gets too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it gets too much for the person that has the mental health, or it gets too much for the person that
It can be
is
like
trying to
yin
help
yang,
out.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's nice. We have a nice balance, and I've got her back. She's got my back.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
I look at that as a kind of as a silver lining. I look at Earls as a silver lining. I know they are small silver linings, but because I would, I would, I'd obviously give up Earls to bring my dad back. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that, like, I want the silver lining out of it, but it is obviously just part of my path. And for me, that's the thing I've got to remind myself. When it went back to the doctor, this is genetic. You don't have to make it that way. Like,
No,
do you know what I
definitely
mean?
not.
You know what I mean? You can speak up. You can. It's just about being strong, and finding ways that you feel that you can lean back and help yourself. And people do care. Like, people care, man. Like, and I'll be honest with you, like, we all go through mental health. Some of us just have it on bigger stages and deal with a lot of different things. And I'm still only new to it. Like, the word mental health probably only crossed over me when I started playing NRL. Anxiety wasn't even a word when I first started playing sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't even know the anxious feeling. I just thought I was nervous. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know the upbeat heartbeat. Like, I was just thought I was nervous to be around Stacey Jones, or, do you know what I mean?
Funny
Like,
titles. Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
you know what I mean? Ruben Wiki, Ivan Cleary, like, but was it, now I think back, was it anxiety? Like, was it like me scared, like I was afraid of catching the ball, like dropping the ball in front of them? You know what I mean? So
Or
it was,
pressure or anything. Like anything.
exactly. And, now, mental health, everyone knows people going through it, so, hopefully the government's, I'm not going to say it's the government's role, but it's everyone's role to kind of
Step
help
up
each
and
other through it.
change.
Because, you can't tell me that COVID hasn't given someone all a bit of mental health, like, you know what I mean? All in different aspects, you know what I
Also
mean? Like
anxiety, yeah, no, definitely.
exactly, you know what I mean? So like, I like, just like anyone, bro, I wish I had the answer, but you know, it comes down to, you know, just taking, I believe, this one day at a time. That's my best, like my best way to do it. We all
Probably
like
the
to be
simplest,
planned.
most
We,
effective saying ever. Hey, like just literally.
we're
But yeah,
just living in the now,
yeah,
because I know if I don't live in the now and worry about the future, like I'm automatically going to get anxious,
yeah.
and that's anxiety. Like control. I can't control what happens in the future.
We can't
All
even
I can,
control tomorrow at the moment.
no, and that's what I learned with suicide. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just don't know, and it's why it's so important for us to live in the now and take it day by day, and and try and just get get through, do your day the best that you can.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, whether
With the
you're
tools you've
down,
got right now, like yeah, yeah,
exactly, do the best you get through the best way you can. And you know what I learned from footy is, like, I not lost a lot of friendships, I shouldn't say that, but I didn't nurture a lot of friendships because it was so busy, you know
yeah,
what I mean? And that's no attitude to have. I look back on it, and I should have nurtured a lot more relationships, because I had lots of friends, and I sacrificed a lot of, like, being one of my best mates best men at his wedding. I played for the Kiwis, but you know, that was a dream of mine. So, you know, one thing I've really done through COVID is really just nurture my relationships. You know, whether that's with your family, whether that's with your friends, whether that's with, you know, someone you haven't spoke to in a while because it's been COVID, because you think you're just going to see them. You know what I mean? I've really thought that that's really helped me get through COVID too. Like, just giving myself a goal of, like, speaking to a certain, you know, a group of people that week, you know what I mean, on the phone, you know, even if it is a text, hey bro, how are you, like, hey mom, like, I love you. Like, I created a group with me and my sister and
yeah.
my mum, and
Like
it's a family.
small steps to achieve for the day, sort of thing.
Exactly, that's all I do. And it, you know, when you have people around you, it makes you feel better. And when, at the moment, some of us can't have people around us,
Yeah,
and that's because, you know, you're isolating, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that.
yeah,
That's why, like, you know, you know, when your phone goes bing, you're like, oh, you know, you find yourself smiling when you're having a chat and there's nothing else going on around you. You know what I mean? It's just it's in our hand.
it's
You know,
crazy how much
it's
people
yeah,
can pick you up, like as a team.
it's there, but we just, our minds have got to, like,
Overcomplicate.
got to learn to change our minds. But it's just the society we live into doesn't help, man. Like,
Yeah, no, it's really
it's
not.
a scary world. I'll be honest with you, it's such a scary world. And that's why I just live at the moment, day by day. And you know, that's a bit of a war mentality and stuff like that, but for me it helps, and it just gets me through it. And you know, when you know, I still occasionally go speak to people, but I've learned, like, my girlfriend's probably the best person I can speak to. And for the first time in my life, I've actually had, you know, someone there, like, to really let myself go about it. And you know, when you get to that point with someone, you kind of know that things are real, you know what I mean? And when you could, you just know, you know, there's places where you'll let yourself go with people, but there's some things you won't say. But
Yeah,
with her, I just let it, it's all raw, you know what I mean? Like,
you
you
guys
know,
sound like yin and
this
like just it's
conversation.
meant to be sort of thing. I'm stoked for you. That's
Yeah,
awesome that you
it's
found
just
that
raw
kind of stuff.
it's just raw conversations. Yeah, the
Exactly.
stuff that we're feeling now, and stuff like that. And so I guess that's the story behind Earls, man. And I guess that's my probably my first real, probably, engagement with mental health. I know I probably had some more when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't, you know, back in the 90s or the early 2000s, nothing was said about it. It was, do you know what I mean? They're not
I mean,
well.
people back
Someone,
then wouldn't even be having conversations like me and you right now about it. So that's, yeah.
right? People back then, you were like known as the crazy person. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're given the stick. You're the crazy person, you know. And unfortunately, that's what it was back then. And it's because, you know, in the last few years, we've broken through strides. And it's people like yourself, bro, who, you know, have got to tap yourselves on the back, man. Like, you guys are the ones that are breaking the mold. You guys are the ones that are helping change. Like, you're creating stuff like this, bro. You're creating me to talk to another male about being vulnerable. And, you know, sometimes people don't do that, bro. And that's what I mean. Like, you're doing your best and you're doing your part. And by even just reaching out to me and asking me if I would like have a FaceTime to you, you know what I mean? So, or a Zoom, sorry. And that's breaking the mold. It's a male having a chat to a male about mental health and suicide. Do you know what I mean? And how we can get better at that, and sorry, how we can get better at being better with mental health. Do you know what I mean? So I thank you, bro. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, to take it upon yourself to reach out to people and ask mental health. Some people do, like, you know, some people might not want to talk about it, but, you know, like for me, I don't really like talking about it much, but, you know, for you, like with you, like, I just felt right, man. And I just, like, I want to thank you for what you're doing and raising money and your awareness around things. And, you know, it doesn't go unseen, you know what I mean? And, yeah, you've got my full support, bro. And
cheers for that.
always here.
Also, it was bloody
Yeah,
raw.
I'm always here if you need a chat, bro. Like, it's never easy, yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Lewi Brown.
Nah,